Our last presenter for today's conference is Dr. Kirnel Grishby. Dr. Kirnel Grishby is a native West Indian and a first-generation scholar. She graduated with a Bachelor of Arts from Agnes Scott College, majoring in psychology and minoring in education. Dr. Grishby then earned her Doctor of Philosophy in School of Psychology from Georgia State University. She has since begun a career serving families of aged-out individuals living with disabilities, both in the public and private sector. As the president and CEO of REACH A.K.G. Education Consultants, Dr. Grishby provides family support services to individuals from the intellectual disability and development disability population. She and her expert team maximize the adult years of individuals living with special needs by increasing their independence and improving their social skills and inspiring personal growth and development. Everyone, please welcome Dr. Grishby.
Okay, I have 1 hour of you guys' time. I mean, I take the whole thing because I do know it's the end of the day and we have to get back in that Atlanta traffic. Thank goodness for that. So I am here and I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation. I realize in listening to some of the other presenters that I'm probably on the other end of the spectrum, pun intended, about the ages that we're speaking of specifically. Like the introduction said, and thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, I work with adults who have aged out of school. Everyone here familiar with the term aged out? We know what that means, okay? So for anyone who didn't want to say it out loud that they don't know, so that means you have a young adult who has now exited the school system, so they're between 18 and 22, and they may have any range of any diagnosis that may have caused them to have a more difficult time in school, and they may have gone on the GAA track. So they've done the Georgia Alternative Assessment track. They're not getting a diploma. They're basically getting a certificate of participation, right? And so a lot of times you'll see with those individuals, they're in a self-contained, if we know what that is, self-contained classroom. They're learning a lot of the daily living skills for their ability to be independent when they get out of school. But when we're in the school systems, a lot of times we have a lot of help, right? But what happens when they graduate?
They lose the head, they lose the work.
They go home, right? And so there's this concept of you go from graduation to the couch. A lot of times we see. And so with most of our school districts, we have to follow up, I think, between 12 months to see, like, what did our kids from the self-contained classroom do that are on that GAA track? And a lot of times we hear parents say the same things. They're at home because we have a hard time finding a job, or, you know, they don't want to do anything. They want to be on the game. They want to be on the tablet. So that's kind of where I step in with my company, and we help those individuals be a lot more independent and maximize those adult years. Any questions so far? Okay. So this is Reach. This is me. Cuteness. Right here. Okay, right? I know, it's so fun. It's so fun. And so we have a fellow Georgia State grad. We have to talk, girl. Let's talk. Because Georgia State's just cranking them out. You know, they're working hard up there in the metro Atlanta area. So I got my degree in school psychology and I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew I wanted to do something fun, right? So I worked in the school system for a little bit. And in doing that, I realized that as I'm doing these assessments, children are getting older, they're getting out of school, and then it's like, I'm thinking, where do they go, right? So then I worked in private practice for a little bit, and I realized in doing assessments there, diagnosing individuals, and then doing therapy, that oftentimes we would do the referral letters for families, and once they get older, there's fewer people to refer. So if they need speech, how many speech pathologists do you know that takes an 18 to 22-year-old or older? Right. So that gap in services was something that was really interesting to me. And I kind of just made a career out of it because, like, why not? You know, and started a business because, you know, this is America. We can do that. And it's super fun. So in learning this new industry, there's a lot of money that's being put into the population that we support. However, the number of providers is very limited, and that's a big part of why we're here, is to figure out how do we fix that, right? So for anyone who's unfamiliar with the process of getting supports and services for someone who is aged out of school, I just want to provide education on the fact that there is funding. And I think a lot of times parents get a bit overwhelmed with the idea that I can't afford to help my child, right? What am I supposed to do? Who's going to pay for this? The government. So what we do is we ask for the help that we need. We open our mouths and we say, we need funding. So this is kind of a timeline of how the funding comes from the federal level to the state level, and can come right into the hands of you if you're a parent or caretaker of someone with special needs, or families that you support. So oftentimes when we get allocated funds at the state level, it's really important that those agencies who get the money find providers to help the families that they're supposed to help. And what's even more important is that people who are connected to those individuals that need the money are aware of how the money comes and where it comes from, right? So I work with state agencies here in Georgia who provide funding for families who have individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities that have aged out. That's my preferred age range that I focus on. And so understanding that is really helpful, especially through the transition period at these IEP meetings for any of my school psychologists, special ed teachers in the room, when we're having conversations about what's next for little Johnny, right? At 13 and then 15, and then now we're at 18, and we're looking at what are they going to do when they get out, and how can we continue to provide supports? Because I think we all know just because a child ages out of school, they're not less disabled, right? They still need help. They still need services. And oftentimes they need more because they have that less of those providers around them. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys some terms to keep in mind. And hopefully we're going to share this PowerPoint so that you guys can have those active links. But all this information, these are words you need to know. It's important that you know this. This is your arsenal for getting the money that you deserve for your families, and so that they can get the services that they need for their loved ones living with special needs. So oftentimes when I'm encouraging my families to go the route of finding funding, a lot of it is just knowing what to ask for and being comfortable with the terms that we need to know about that. So how many people here know DBHCD? Familiar with that? Okay, so that is the governing board, I would say, for the state of Georgia, where a lot of the big money comes into play for adults with special needs. And so we're looking all kinds of different developmental diagnoses and backgrounds. A lot of my clients, because I'm under the ID and DD population, have autism. So that's kind of why I'm here to talk about that piece. But it can be autism among many other things, right? And so knowing where to go to get that information is really helpful. And so definitely if you guys have any questions about that after, I'm happy to answer those as well. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Any current questions? Okay. So now one thing that I often have to have conversations with my parents about is remembering that you had that IEP team, right? You know, you walk into the meeting and it's like a bunch of people that you've never seen before until that one time of the school year. And you're like, hi everyone. So you need that when your child ages out too, or your loved one, or for any of the families that you support through your professions. So I like to think of it this way. We're trying to Avenger up, if we will, with all the people that can get things that we need, because like I said, although they've aged out of school, these are young adults now, they still need supports and services. And the reality of it is, in my experience, at least in doing this for a few years more than a few years. What's a few? Like 5? 3? Okay, it's been more than a few. Doing this with the state and really working with so many different families, I'm realizing that a lot of times parents are doing it by themselves. And it's scary, right? It's scary and it's expensive. So oftentimes I want to encourage them, make sure that you're connecting with the people who can give you the supports that your child needs, because those 20s and 30s are like the glory years for a lot of our individuals living with special needs. They tend to regress a lot sooner than a more neurotypical individual. And so we don't want to waste that time waiting for, what are we even waiting for, honestly? And a lot of times I think that's what happens. So I'll get new clients now for my agency at 35. And between 22 when they age out of school and 35, they've been home, And so when I get them, it's like we're starting over a little bit, but they're 35 years old. So it can be a bit of an uphill battle, but of course, the better support we have at home and the better the partnership is, the more progress we can make. But we have to meet clients where they are. We have to kind of be realistic with their goals and expectations. And what I found and what I'm really passionate about is having conversations younger and younger so that we can get them right out of school. Because there's no need to waste that amount of time, right? Does that make sense? Okay. So when we're looking at the different providers, there are certain things that I think families just forget to consider because it's overwhelming. The day-to-day of raising an adult or an individual with special needs, especially as they get older, can be very overwhelming. But when you get to the point where you're aging out of your pediatric services into your adult medical services, we need to have a primary care physician that will work with a 26-year-old young lady with Down syndrome, right? And make sure that our insurance covers that. That's important. We need to make sure we have a psychiatrist on our team if our child is taking any medication for behavior management, for mood stabilization, any of those things that we may have been experiencing for a very long time. None of that's going to change, and we need to make sure that we have those people on our team. When we come and look at financial support and services, that's a big one, because at any moment, at any day, things can be very different for our families, and we want to make sure that our loved ones are taken care of. So most of our families come and they're very fearful because they think, well, who's going to take care of my child if I'm not here, right? And that fear is so big that it's almost debilitating. So it goes from I'm really concerned to I almost can't do anything. It's paralyzing fear. So we want to fix that, right? We want to make sure that they are being proactive. But a lot of times giving this to a parent and saying, hey, figure this out can be a lot. So as an outside provider, I think we can be really supportive in helping our families know that we're going to find these pieces together. And because we know that resources can be very limited, the more conversations that we have, being that we're all similar minded in our ability to help families, it just makes it easier for everybody. Then we can share resources, which is so fun. Any questions? Wonderful. Okay. So I selfishly want to talk about my company because why not? I'm here. So Reach is one of those things that I feel gives parents this sigh of relief. My goal as the owner of the company is I want to start the conversation with the shoulders up here and then like just watch them drop, right? The caretaker's like, oh my goodness, where have you been? We've been waiting for you forever. The goal is that we're making sure that they're able to maximize those adult years because it's important that they do that. So just a little bit of background about the company and what we do. We do work with different state agencies where I bill the state agencies directly so that the families don't have that financial responsibility directly, but they are my teammate and make sure the funding is in place. So filling out the paperwork, ensuring that everything is active and is current is really important so that services are not interrupted. Now, depending on the area and where the individual lives in the different zones, and we looked at all the different counties here in Georgia, but I didn't realize we had that many different areas. It is important to know like which district is covered by which area under DBHCD. All of that can be found on the website. So those links will be active for you guys to utilize. But this is what we do and who we are. So, this is my why. These are my fun people. I just love them so much. Right now we have about, between the clients that are in office, some that we see virtually, some that we see in home, we're probably around 50 clients that I work with directly on a regular basis, and we're constantly growing. So that's been very fun. So I'll be needing you guys' help, please, to help keep up with everybody that we're getting. It's really important that we work together. But some of the ways that we support families, and I want to share this because I'm not the only one doing this, right? There are other agencies here very similar in different areas. And I think a lot of times we just need to connect our families with the right people to get things started. So anyone here familiar with Adult Day Health, Adult Day Services? Okay. So one of the pillars of my company with Reach is that we do adult day services. But I like to call it life enrichment because it just sounds more posh, more fancy, more modern, you know, it's a little sexier. So with our adult day services, what we're trying to do is make sure that when you go to work, mom and dad, grandma, whoever, when you're out of town, that your child is not just sitting and rotting away. Yeah, because that's easy to do. And in most cases, for families who are overwhelmed because they've been raising this individual with special needs all of their life, they're tired, right? So we say, bring them here, and we're going to keep them engaged. We're going to keep them active. We're going to work on different skills that they need to make sure that their brain is staying active and is actually working well for them. So we're looking at different core areas, and these are all specific terms that I have on here because these are terms that the state will pay for. So it's important that we know these things, going back to equipping our families to advocate for what they need and to get the funding to provide the services that will really help their child become their best self. So some of these different skills can look similar to what you may see in those extended special needs programs or the, what are they called? Because every county has a different name for it. So, like they have a bridge program in some counties where they go from 18 to 22, where they'll give them an opportunity. The students can apply, and if they're eligible, they can stay the extra couple years and learn those like independent skills, those life skills. We do a lot of that. And so if you have a child with special needs in the room, or any child, I have a 5, 7, and 9-year-old. So I say a lot of the same things every day, right? It's just a lot of repetition. Now imagine doing that when your child is like 37. It's just like you're tired. Right. So we take the load and we do that. We do a lot of the repetition. I was so glad I went after this wonderful presentation on feeding because a lot of the conversations around food preferences and food avoidant behaviors to not eat what you don't want to eat, we do that in our day program. So we have the visual schedule. We have to discuss, okay, so I know that you came in and all you ate was macaroni and cheese because you're 24 and mom is tired of fighting with you, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to put a little piece of broccoli. Okay. I didn't know we were doing all this. So I'm like, listen, the confirmation. I said, look at me using that degree. I didn't have the words, the terminology for it, but essentially it's the same concept of making sure that we're meeting them where they are. You like mac and cheese? Okay, we're going to start with some mac and cheese. And then we're going to gradually grow into, you're going to eat what we're all eating. Okay. So maybe someone has more food than the other, but the concept is it's a social experiment. It's a social experience rather. And so we want to make sure that we have everyone on the same page. So during the day program hours, this is from 9 to 4. And a lot of day programs kind of have similar hours. They may have it longer or shorter based on transportation. It gives them somewhere productive to go. So families need to be aware. If you have a loved one that you cannot leave at home, or you should not leave at home, right? Because families will say, oh, they're fine. But they're fine because they're in their room. So they're safe. And we're equating safe with successful, and that's not always the same thing. So we want to make sure that they're still stimulating the brain. That's really important. So this is the day services piece. Any questions about that? Yes.
So I have a question. So since you are part of a day service center, so do you accept the comp waiver, or
I
you
do.
pay a fee? Or?
I am a participant-directed vendor for the waiver. Does anyone know what that is or familiar with that? So when you have, but do we know the now or comp waiver? Yes? Okay. So, and I'm learning all this as I go. So trust me, if I'm misspeaking, I'll figure it out soon. Somebody will correct me. Thank you. So the now or comp waiver, you can do the traditional path where they have, it's almost like an HMO, right? Where they have a network of providers and you say, I'm going to pick this one. And then they give you the list and you're like, you can go to these people and it's covered. And if you go outside of these people, it's not covered. So that's a traditional way to utilize the now or comp waiver. Then you have participant directed, which is where the parent or caretaker, whoever signs the individual up for services, they are responsible for finding their provider. So they will be kind of like the liaison between the state funding and the provider. So I'm on that end. So I'm an independent day program provider, basically. Families who are participant directed, which is a selection they have to make in the process of getting the waiver, can then say, I want my child to go here. I'm on the vendor list so that I can bill directly to the state, but it's not, it's something that the parents have to choose. And so I have seen families that have both. They have traditional services, maybe if their child is more intensive and they need like nursing services throughout the day, but they also want to do respite, which is, the overnight caretaking. And they want to do that with someone that they know, like they want to hire a family member who's been helping them all their years. They can go that route and have both. But you kind of have to make a choice throughout the process. So that is how I get funding for the waiver. So now or comp waiver. I do that as long as they're participant directed. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? That was a great one. Okay. So this is just a summary of some of the things that we do. We have our workspace, which is one of our buildings and one of our pillars for our business, and that's our more intensive clients. So when I think about the avatar for who this would be, to help you guys understand who we work with, if you have a loved one who, they're the life of the party, big personality, they like to talk to people. But if you leave them with someone, they may go with that person. If you know who that kind of person is, that kind of client is. So then you're just like, well, we need you to know how to be safe in your own environment because you have social skills. You enjoy that piece, but we don't know for sure that you're going to make good choices every time by yourself independently. So a lot of those clients who need a lot of the repetition, like we're going to wash our hands after we eat, right? And they're like, yes, right. But if you don't tell them, they're going to go sit down. Those types of things we're working on. Also, when it comes to the social engagement, we're still working on sharing, taking turns. You cannot play the Wii for 6 hours straight. We have other people here. Things like that. So these are a lot of the services that we're looking to encourage them to be a part of. And when I'm hiring staff, I tend to hire people who have skill sets that I do not have. Like, are you a baker? So let's bake, right? And we're going to teach all the clients how to bake so that I can eat it because that's very important to me. It's very, very important. So these are just an example of some of the things. And when we go to transition fairs, we do attend a lot of them for local school districts. So if anyone here is over the transitional programs at your school district and you need a vendor, hello, okay? We'll come. So these are things that I like to share with the families as well. Any questions?
Do you also, what about individuals with behavioral challenges?
If they have behavioral challenges? So that's a great question. It depends, right? So we do have clients who have come through the Marcus Autism Center and they come with their behavior plans and we will implement that into our program. Because I am an independent provider, I do have the ability to say whether or not a client will be a good fit for the program and vice versa. So sometimes it may be that coming to the day program may not be a good idea, but coming in home may be more appropriate. And the idea is to get them to the day center because most of the times we do better in community. I think we can all agree with that. Isolation is not good for our population. And I actually grew most of my clientele through the pandemic because a lot of those clients were home. And that 1 year of complete isolation was very damaging for a lot of my families. So we had seen some clients who had more behaviors because of that. And so we would start them in the home with the hopes that we could get them to the office. There are instances, though, where we have someone who may have some severe behaviors, and we have to dismiss them because we have to think about the greater good. And because our program is very fluid, like we move around a lot, we are in and out of the office. We go to different activities. We're in the community a lot because the goal is we don't want them to be isolated. So although they get to be with their friend group and together, we do want them out. And so when certain behaviors can just be difficult to manage. And my goal is to find other providers who have that expertise. What I often find is that they have expertise until like 16, 17, 18. But if I have, a 42-year-old male with autism that's, Donkey Konging people, we have fewer resources, I'm just saying. So if you guys know anybody that does that, please let me know because we are always looking for those types of things. But it is something that we're open to. I think my school psych background really helps me because I understand behavior in many different ways. I also have to be realistic about what happens, but it's something that I do want to grow as far as building more providers that do that, because a lot of our families are experiencing a lot of behaviors with that still, a lot of aggression in the home setting. And then what we'll see is, because I'm pretty stern, believe it or not, so the clients will not misbehave at the office because they associate the office with me. But then at home, we're punching mom, we're throwing things, we're breaking TVs. And I think people, when you see a toddler do it, it's different. You can just grab them. Oh, don't do that. But when your child is bigger than you and stronger than you, it's a whole different situation. So I have partnered with other individuals who do provide behavioral supports. And I think that's one of the great things about knowing what all is available, because a lot of times if this provider specifically can't do it, they may know someone who can. So it's just important to keep that network going. I think there was a question here, and then I'll come back to you.
Who pays for it? How does this work?
Who pays for it? The government. So I work directly with the state. I don't want parents to pay. I have parents who self-pay, they'll see us out because we have our cute matching shirts. I brand everything. Nike doesn't pay my bill, so I put Reach on absolutely everything, right? It's a vibe. So when we're out in the communities, we'll find families and they may self-pay if they're in a district that doesn't have funding through the state. I was saying earlier how DBHD does it by your location. So certain regions will encompass certain counties. So I know mines are Clayton, Fulton, DeKalb, Rockdale. Those are all in the cluster of counties that my funding source will cover, but it won't cover Henry, which is right next to where I'm located, so it's things like that. But then there are other elements of how you can get funding too. So that's the question for DBHD specifically. And I think there's a way you can go on there and find out who your regional director is to get the process started. But yes, I let the state pay because why not? Why not? Is that good? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
What type of training or qualifications does your staff have to work with this population?
Ooh, that's a great question. So we all are CPR trained because people choke. Okay, they like to choke often. Fun fact, one of my clients actually sneezed out a sticker from her nose. Yes, she did. Flew across the room. And the whole day we're like, Alexa, are you okay? So, and then it came out, we're like, oh, this makes a lot of sense, right? But so the CPR is really important. A lot of my staff also have experience either working as a special education teacher, special education parapro in some capacity, or working with other agencies that provide this type of service. So I keep my team small and mighty, but we are being forced to grow, unfortunately, because we're so awesome, which is very scary for me as a business owner. But I'm learning constantly the different types of things that we need. So we go to trainings like this, and I'll try to send the staff here and there. The feeding presentation was amazing. I'm thinking, because we deal with that every single day. Every single day. Somebody doesn't want to eat, right? And so those types of things I'm acquiring as I go. But if you have recommendations for things you think I need to put in place, please let me know.
I was curious to know if there are CPAs on staff.
Not on staff, no. But I do, for our staff meetings, we'll have someone come in. So right now we have a client who's actually deaf, hard of hearing. And so this month we're going to have a woman who is ASL trained come in and teach us general safety signs so that we can communicate better with her and also some of our nonverbal clients. So it kind of will be based on what I think makes the most sense. I will say, and not to brag, I got a whole degree in many things and went to school for a super long time. So I utilize a lot of my own training and expertise. in teaching my staff how to interact with our clients in my, my years of experience. But it is something that every time I get a new client, I'm learning something new that we need. So it's constantly growing. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Any other questions? Oh, yes.
Do you have a wait list for your day program?
It depends on what you need. Oh, and I didn't even get to the spicy part yet, but hold on. I do not have a wait list. It depends. So as we get a lot of clients around April because parents are freaking out because when May comes, what happens, right? And it's not that it's summer. It's like it's summer. Your child is 22 and they're not going back to school ever again. So like, oh, I have to like plan the rest of my kid's life, their entire adult life. So that happens often. And so we have definitely had an influx this year and it's going to continue. That's been the trend, since we've been doing this. So our goal is to expand to other counties. I'm wanting to, and I'm going to put this out here publicly so y'all can help me. Anyone who's connected to the YMCA of every other area outside of Fayetteville, please let me know because we need more locations for what we do. But right now, if they're coming to our office in Fayetteville, we don't have a wait list, which we're very grateful for. And like I said, we do see families in home. That one's a little bit more of a concern because I have to get staff that I trust to go into the home and provide the service. And I don't just hire a warm body. Like you need to know what you're doing because people like to sue. And I don't want to get sued. Does that answer your question? Yes. Any other questions? Okay. So we talked a little bit about our day program services. Hold on. Another thing that we do, which makes us really attractive and is very, very helpful for families is respite. So you guys know what respite is for the most part? Yes. And we know how that is like a high ticket item right there. Trying to find someone that will watch your 42-year-old son so you can go to a wedding out of town. Or the way that I got into respite, one of my families that I already had, the mom was having surgery. She was going to be in the hospital for 5 days. Her son had lots of explosive behaviors at home. But again, he cussed me out real good one time. And then we were friends after that. But he was very well managed with us. So in the interim of her being in the hospital, it's like, I want him to be with you guys because you know how to work with him. And that's kind of what started our whole respite program. So I invest in mobile homes and I utilize them, renovate them up to have my clients stay overnight with our staff so that our families can get a break. Because sometimes you just want to be home by yourself. You don't want to fold clothes. You don't want to do nothing. And your child is with us, living their best life. So we offer that service as well. So they come into our care and we basically will have them for 24 hours for however many days. We've had clients up to a month and a half. Some of our clients are actually coming into, it's almost like semi-permanent residential stays where they'll be with us Monday through Friday and they'll be home on the weekends with their family. And eventually we're going to have to add the idea of just like long-term residential because they fall in love with us and they won't leave. And like, why would they leave? I get it, So that's kind of part of the process. I mean, even in the respite, we're doing a lot of the same things. So these are clients and the range of abilities is very wide. So we can have clients who are very independent and we're working on making sure that they're getting to work still. So we're putting them on whatever path they need to get on to do that. Those who are less independent and have more intensive needs, like they may need to do a bed bath, feedings, we will have that as well. The majority of my clients are more ambulatory and more independent, I will say. But we don't discriminate. As long as I'm able to take care of them, they can come. I am not a nurse. Okay, I'm a doctor of the mind. So if I can't do something, I would much rather, again, not get sued. It's very important. But the respite is a huge thing, and we have found a lot of success with that as well. But it's just another way to acknowledge the fact that, and I think it was said earlier when you were presenting that the continuum for care changes as they get older. So this is really important as families have aging children because they're aging as well. So their needs are constantly changing. So we're just here to help however we can, as long as the government pays for it. Hello, because I don't want the families to pay. The last piece of what we do and kind of what we focus on is what we call our workforce. And this is probably similar to what you guys see in the schools job supported employment, right? Most of our families want their loved ones to work. A lot of employers want labor, but they don't understand how to work with adults with special needs, especially those on the spectrum who have repetitive behaviors. They have social anxiety. They are a bit argumentative, if you will, because they want to understand. And it is important that they understand before they execute. So in doing so, we utilize our partnerships through our chamber, our local Fayette Chamber of Commerce, to find business owners from small businesses who will give us an opportunity to just learn a skill. So we go around, and on Thursdays, we do Meals on Wheels with Fayette Center, the Fayette Senior Center, And so our group goes and they're working with them to pack meals and make sure that the seniors are eating at their very best. We also work with Open Hand Atlanta. So we find different opportunities for them to learn those job skills, but they're also working with different individuals from all different backgrounds, which is really expanding those social skills that they have that they just couldn't get in a different experience, in a different setting. But it's protected because we have to be careful. We don't want them to get out there and not be able to be successful. So any questions about that?
I
Yes.
was just going to say, this is wonderful because I work for DDHCD at the Region 1 office.
Oh.
I get calls all the time from like elderly parents.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to shady, you know, they're
Yeah.
trying to live forever and like,
Yeah.
what can I do with my job? So
Mm-hmm.
we need more of those.
Yes, and we're gonna talk. See, that's my friend right there. Yeah, that's my friend. She don't even know. But that is a huge concern. I get the parents again, the shoulders are up here because they're like, well, I felt like I could do it all these years, you know, but now my child is 40, I'm 67, and I'm tired, or my health is failing, right? And so, what's the next step? I don't want to dump them on their siblings, you know, or their siblings might not even be in the state. How are we gonna fix that? And so, in an effort to make sure that the families are taken care of, but also meeting the clients where we are, we want to diversify the services for what we do, and that's why we have different programs for Reach. The workforce is more for our higher functioning clients, I would say, that are a little bit more independent. These are individuals who probably could live on their own or in some sort of assisted living if given the right tools and like the coaching, but also that they want to date. So we got to talk about the things that people do when they date, okay? And many parents don't want to do that. Like, it's kind of awkward. But we're also dealing with getting them out in the community, knowing how to be safe, using public transit, getting back and forth, knowing their address, like being able to protect themselves, different things like that. And this program is really fun because it gets us to expand our partnership as well. We're getting them out so that people understand, like, we're living in a world with a lot of different people. So we want them to understand the world as much as we want the world to understand our group, right? And it's so much fun. It's so much fun. Any questions about that? Yes.
So your supported services, are they supported by a GRBA?
A GVRA? I work separate from GVRA, but I do have a lot of families who have GVRA, like they've either used them in the past through their school system. I think a lot of times schools and GVRAs are connected, but that's a separate entity from where I do my funding.
So do you network with them maybe? I know because it's kind of similar to what
Mm-hmm.
y'all do, just getting ideas to be
Yeah.
open-minded. Another area that came to me was Project Search. I used to work for
I've heard about them. Okay.
And so it is supported employment that helps people with disabilities go and work along regular job force. So I know there is a Project Search somewhere in Fayetteville as well. It's also, some of them are located through your local school department, and some of them are adult side.
Okay.
They do the same thing.
I would love for us to talk about that. I actually met a family recently and they were telling me about their Project Search experience, but they lived in South Dakota. So I didn't realize it was, I didn't even know there was one here.
Oh, yes, it's
So-
all over the state of Georgia. Actually, it's actually in 31 counties.
Okay.
So they have a big, I think this year we had a huge success out in Texas. It was a conference.
Okay.
And they meet from all over the different states. In Ireland come, United Kingdom come, different places. They all
Okay.
come and they come here to the U.S. and they meet and they discuss ways with all your agencies here. I think that's something that you can probably reach out there. I can give you a number.
Please do, yes.
Somebody, and maybe you can hopefully like join and meet with other people out in Fayetteville in the different areas. In Atlanta, at the airport, they are the newest Project Search. If
Like
you
site?
go live through
Mm-hmm.
the airport, and they have a Project Search there.
Okay.
They come in, they teach employment there through the airport, so it may be an open door for you to be able to go through the airport, or maybe through hotel chains, or different things like that. So it's a lot of different varieties with Project Search where they work with different companies, and maybe you may have a little bit more access to work in between.
That's amazing. And also for anyone in the schools, because a lot of times I still work in schools, some, you know, because I like to do my own thing sometimes. But a lot of the conversations I'll have with my special education teachers is knowing similar things to this, because I can't get to every parent. I wish I could. But a lot of times it's just being able to spread the knowledge with enough individuals so that as many families can get help as possible. Because my biggest goal in life is I just don't want to get a 42-year-old for the first time. and nothing's been done. Like, can we make some progress? Absolutely. But knowing things like this ahead of time, it makes such a big difference. Like, they get to be an adult. They get to live a full life, you know? And I think that's one of the most important things. So thank you for sharing that. We will be discussing, and that's another one of my friends, y'all. Okay. Any questions about this though so far? Okay. And I think there are videos in here, but y'all can watch that at your leisure. Oh, one of my most exciting things, and Mickey, I'm going to shout you out. Get ready. Okay, so I have interns, and interns are important because if anyone owns a business, it is hard to hire people that want to work for real. Okay, I tell people everybody wants to get paid until they have to work. It's weird. Like, why though? Right? And I love what I do. So I'm like, pay me, don't pay me, but please pay me. Like, I love this thing. This is like my entire life. It makes me excited. I charge up when I think about working with my families. But when I'm building a workforce, part of it is I got to, just like I'm wanting to start services early for clients, I want to start understanding how this business works for younger and younger individuals. So we do have high school interns and college interns, graduate level. And what is good about this is they're working with individuals in our office. Our clients are coming in and they're seeing staff that's closer to their age, right? So the lingo, the conversations, the patience, the excitement, the energy is more aligned with like maybe what they were experiencing when they had peers at school versus being in a place full of older individuals who just may not be that fun, may not be as fun, you know? The generational gap is real. So my internship has been extremely important in the growth of my business, and I'm really grateful to them. Mickey, are you going to stand up? Stand up, Mickey! Yeah, she's very shy. Woo, Mickey! So Mickey was in my second or third internship cohort at Lovejoy High School, if you guys are familiar with Clayton County. And I'm obsessed with her, and I didn't want her to go, so I just kept finding jobs for her as she navigated through college so I could pay her to stay in my life and make me a better version of myself, and she is awesome. So that is another big thing that we do, and I think in partnering with high schools, it also helps because I'm learning the students are coming out that are going to be in the program, more than likely, my potential clients, but also potential staff. So that's something that I'm really proud of. And they get to just understand how it is to use their resources, their skill sets to help this population that needs a lot of supports and services. And there's not enough providers. So I'm trying to fill a whole bunch of gaps. You know, I need y'all's help. But I think if anything, hopefully the goal for this presentation was just to give you guys some ideas of what you can do to get your families ready for that transition, because it's coming and it's a big one, but we can do it together, right? Any questions? I will take them. Yes.
When are you opening up your new facility in May?
You know, if somebody gets me a building, I'm sure I already have clients. Like, get me a space. It is a thing. And then the staffing piece of it, I would need help with that too. Just about everyone I've hired has been word of mouth. Like, they work for me and they know somebody that's good. I am so passionate about what I do. And it's very important to me that the people that work with me care. You know, I don't like to just pay people just to be there. I want you to understand how to make the lives of our clients better. But I want to be as many places as I can. We will share the goal because trust me, it's in my head. And it's a big one, right? But the big part of it is just making sure that people are aware that life after school can look fun. Like, it can be exciting. It can be enriching for our loved ones with special needs. And so a lot of times families just are not expecting that. They don't know what that can look like. So I just want to give a bit of a North Star, if you will. And if we can materialize that into making, hey, let's make it happen. Mercer University, give me a space. Hello. Yes, ma'am.
This looks like a good one.
I think this is a great space. I look good in here. Yes.
Thank you so much for this presentation and just for this whole entire experience.
Absolutely.
I'm a parent. My son is going to high school next year, so we have 7 years until he graduates.
Yeah.
And this is something that plagues me all the time. I'm constantly thinking about, what is our life going to look like? What steps do I need to take at this point, and how do I help navigate life for him once he gets out of high school?
Absolutely.
What advice would you give to me right now and what I can do to prepare for this moment and this transition? Mm-hmm. He currently has Katie Beckett.
Okay.
I heard a lot about now comp waiver. We tried that a lot when he was younger, but we kept getting denied. So I'm going to get back on the waiting list for that.
Yeah.
But what other steps should I take? And this is open for you and anybody in the room that can help me.
Absolutely. That's a great question. And thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that too, because it is a real thing to kind of think about those next steps. I would highly encourage getting on the waiver waiting list. What I've seen, a lot of my clients are transitioning either from Bobby Dodd Institute into the waiver, and they won't give it to you until your child is kind of 18 or up. So you're getting denied because there are other waivers that your child could be experiencing and getting funding for. It's typically what I understand to be the case. If anyone knows more, DPHD, is that? our DBHD expert here, right? We love that. So typically that's what happens, but you want to be on the planning list because you can be on there for a while, for a very long time. I mean, like 7, 8, 9 years. So this is a great time to put him back. You said your son, correct? Put him back on the waiting list. And I would even go back to, hold on 1 second. Sorry for the flashes. Go back to here. Start building this here. So if you are any provider that you're using now that you think likely will be a lifelong provider for your child, you want to have the conversation about, do you know anyone that you can refer that sees adults? So you can go ahead and just have that kind of in the forefront of your mind. I think that's really the biggest thing, because if we have a child who's been on medication, because that helps with mood stabilization and behavior, and now they're 21 and they can't find a psychiatrist that takes Medicaid. Now that's a whole nother soapbox. I will not get on that one today, but listen, okay? So you want to kind of start that process early so that you don't have any interferences in your daily services that you need. And then just having those conversations, finding community. I think the autism toolkit that you shared is exceptional. And I love that that's a resource for families. So definitely take advantage of that so that you can know what options can look like. And then, bring them to Reach. I mean, why not?
Also, she can connect with the transition coordinator at school. Mm-hmm. And the vocational rehab.
Yes, absolutely.
Vocational rehab have some programs. And then they can start working with you as early as 14.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Chris is 16, so
Yeah.
I definitely want to do that.
Yeah, get them started.
And thank
Which
you.
is part of the remote rehab. That they
Mm-hmm.
have the opportunity to go there, which is college-like, residential, but
Mm-hmm.
it's about being about a way, everything in Georgia is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Unfortunately.
Thank you, and I'm in Savannah.
Georgia Dogs program.
The WHO program, I'm sorry?
Georgia has an autism program too. It's Georgia. I forgot what it's called, but it's at Georgia. I just had a friend whose son went through and graduated. They do different things, just like at Warm Springs. I would definitely recommend going to Warm Springs, looking into it, doing a observation, going and looking around. It's a very awesome experience. I experienced it myself, not only as an educator, but I also do have a child that's on the spectrum. But as you see, I have held many different titles throughout my job experiences that have led me where I'm at. But the best thing I can tell you is having a team network to get you to the next level, and also be willing to be open-minded. Just because one person says no doesn't mean that there's not going to be another door. So keep the favor of God upon your life and just keep moving forward. And that's the most thing that I can tell you is keep encouraged.
Oh, Shondo. Love that.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. And I live in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh.
So anybody from Savannah, I would love to connect with you as well and build community.
We'll be there soon. And reach Savannah after making. Yes.
So how do families get transported to your facility? Do you provide transportation, or is that something they have to do on their own?
That is also a wonderful question. Most of my families, especially now their loved ones are adults, have Medicaid. And so I work with a program called Verida. Has anyone heard of Verida before? So they do non-medical transport for Medicaid recipients. And so I started off doing transportation. I was doing everything. I tell people, I'm at the point now where I'm hiring people that do things I don't do or I haven't done. But for the most part, every role that I've hired for, I've done it myself. So I was the pickup person with my kids in the car. I was getting them to the office. I was running the whole day program. I was taking people home. And that is exhausting. And then it's a huge liability for staff. So I like to work with organizations that have all those insurances in place and they have the scheduling so that my staff aren't being stretched so thin, picking people up and taking them home. But we do have some clients where we do get them still, but we've moved to using those non-medical transport. And that's more of a responsibility of me as a business owner, just to know what other resources are out there. And if a family has to fight to get Medicaid, because we know that's not easy, I'm like, use all of it. Use all the stuff, because there's a lot of things that Medicaid will actually cover that our families are not aware of. I'm constantly learning as well. So that's how we do that's how we do transportation now. And then we also have families who come. They bring them and pick them up. But we're in Fayetteville. I don't know if you guys are familiar with where that is. We have families coming from as far as Sandy Springs, Beaufort, Grayson to come to our program because we're awesome and they love us and we love them.
Were you a cheerleader?
Huh?
Were you a cheerleader?
I was for 1 year. Let me tell you, 8th grade, it was a good time. It was. But I had to let that go and
I
do some
also
other
wanted
things.
to interject. I'm over here. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, yes.
I also wanted to interject when we were talking about caregivers and getting them on that team and that transition from a child to an adult.
Yes.
Mercer and DBHDD just opened the first of its kind facility in the United States.
Oh, wow.
And it's over on Hazel Street here. And it's an outpatient site for people with disabilities. Intellectual disabilities, and then it's an inpatient side on the other side of the building.
Oh, nice.
So it's wonderful, and you can call and it's for people who haven't been able to get those services, get their teeth cleaned, because that's traumatic.
Yes.
If you know, and,
Yes.
or go and get a mammogram, or go and get those testings and see someone that specializes in taking care of them and meeting their needs. So that is a unique and very exciting place. And so it is right here over on Hazel Street. It just opened 2 weeks ago.
And what's the funding source? Yeah, that's amazing. Well, how do they pay? Or is it a Medicaid?
DBHDD, it was built through Mercer and DBHDD. So
Okay.
Mercer runs the outpatient side, and then Rivers Edge runs the inpatient crisis side.
I would love a card.
Rivers Edge is, do you know the name of it?
Hang on I think it's the Center for, hang on just one second. There you go. Crisis Services
Mickey, write that down.
Diagnostic Center.
Okay, Crisis Center Intervention. Crisis Services. Diagnostic Center. I said that all wrong. Okay, Crisis Services Diagnostic Center. I would love that. One of my family's greatest challenges, most of my family's greatest challenges is dental. Trying to get a really large individual that's a grown person that doesn't want their teeth cleaned to get their teeth cleaned. You know, imagine taking your 9-year-old versus your 39-year-old. It is rough. So, and a lot of places won't sedate. So the wait list for the places that do is extremely long. So yeah, there's just so much good resource here. I'm so excited. This was fun. Any other questions? Yes.
Just to double check, your organization take any adults with developmental disabilities, like the diagnosis criteria?
Intellectual and developmental, yes. That's our kind of target for focusing more on the aged out. So I would say 18 to about 40 is where I like to focus. And when it comes to finding a good fit, I'm very family focused and like family based. So when we were talking about how you want to reinforce feeding services at home, because if it's not being reinforced at home, then we're doing stuff in a lab for what reason? You know, it doesn't get very far. And so the same thing goes with our services. When we see that there's some behavioral changes that need to happen in the office that's causing our clients to not be aggressive towards us and to follow directions and be compliant, we need you guys doing that at home, because then we're starting over every single day. And we don't want to do that, right? We want to see the progress. And I also don't want home to be a horrific experience for you. And the only time you get a break is when they're with us, because I don't think that that's fair to the parent or the caretaker. But yeah, so we do have to assess for fit in that way. But a lot of times families are just so grateful to have support. So they listen, you know. I put my foot down. I'm like, we're going to listen. We're going to work together. And it does well. But it just really depends on distance, because sometimes if transportation is an issue, that can come into play. But if you have a family, please send them our way. I'll be happy to speak with them as well. Any other questions? Yay! Go team! That was great.